Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show. I am your host, Alex Theuma, CEO and founder of SaaStock. Delighted to be joined today by the CEO and co-founder of Pendo, Todd Olson. Welcome, Todd. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Great to be here.
Yeah, good to have you in the podcast for the first time, and we've been running this we're in our 9th year now. So I feel we've had your co-founder Eric on before. I mean, I should know this, but it's the first time to have you. So delighted to have you on the podcast and share a bit of the.
It's taken 9 years to get me on the podcast, Alexander. That's crazy.
I think it's a scheduling issue. It's a scheduling issue, but yeah, we're here now. We're here now. So it's and your ARR is higher, and we can talk about all the great lessons on building Pendo to such a big business. And Todd, where are you today? Are you in it's North Carolina is where the offices are, right?
Yes, sir. I am sitting in our headquarters in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Very cool, very cool. And I don't know if you know, and maybe you do know, but obviously Pendo acquired Receptive many years ago, and Hannah Chaplin, who's the co-founder of Pendo of Receptive, she came to the very first SaaS meetup that I hosted pre-SaaStock. And we remained certainly at that time sort of like good friends, and she came to a lot of SaaStocks. And then I was very happy to see her, have that exit event and then go into Pendo. And I think she's still there now and very much enjoying herself, right?
She just departed. She is, I think last I heard she was going to become a computer science professor. But Hannah is a special human being, and it was an absolute honor to work with her. And that office is thriving. It's I don't know, 5 times bigger than acquisition, maybe even larger than that. And honestly, I love Sheffield and I love that team. So really good acquisition, and really excited about what that team's doing.
Amazing.
So yeah,
amazing.
Hannah's amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so Todd, we've spoken about Hannah, but let's speak about you. So let's start off with, who is Todd Olson?
Look, I obviously the co-founder and CEO of Pendo. I mean, I'm a technologist, right? I started my career writing code software at age 14 for a bank. I started my first company right out of college, my seniorish year, so around 20 years old. Pendo's my third venture-funded company, and inarguably the most successful. I think the first one got kind of caught up in the dot-com era. Second one, I ended up selling to Rally Software, which was what we would call a soft landing. And Rally was a great company, and I had the pleasure of being part of an amazing team there that helped take that company public, and I led product there. And that's where I really came up or discovered the idea of Pendo. And after departing Rally, started Pendo actually now just over 10 years, which is kind of hard to believe, but the company was incorporated in October-ish of 2013, and really started getting going in early 2014, and here we are.
Is that where you met Eric at that previous company? So how you touched on within that business, that's where you came up with the idea. Tell us a little bit more about that founding story of Pendo.
Yeah, so I was at Rally prior to Pendo, and I ran product, and we had a large SaaS business, enterprise SaaS business, and I was struggling to how do I get data to inform future roadmaps, and how do I drive engagement in the product. And we had a homegrown system that sort of instrumented products and brought it into a data warehouse, and it was always kind of missing something. It was always lacking certain data or somewhat incomplete. I hired a data scientist, and he gave me sort of a rundown of, hey, we don't have this, we don't have that, can't give you this answer, it'll take all this engineering time. I'm like, whoa, we're not going to have an engineering team full time just working on this problem. That's crazy. We want them building customer features. So that kind of came up. I kind of saw then this opportunity. Wow, it'd be amazing if I had infrastructure just did all this sort of stuff for me. And so that was a piece of it. The other big piece of it was I could also see that cloud was making us ship more frequently, which is great. We want to ship more frequently. But then how do you enable and educate customers when you're shipping frequently? What I found is our customers started not knowing all the cool things we're building because we're shipping them so frequently, and it's not their job to keep up with our release schedule. So I saw this challenge of do you message? How do you educate users? So I kind of formed the idea of like marrying both into a single platform. And that was sort of the idea. That was the original impetus for the idea. From there, I started talking to friends. Actually, Eric Bodick, who you're referring to, he was my co-founder of my first company, going back to like age 20 out of Carnegie Mellon. So we obviously got quite close to that experience. And you know how things go. I said that, dot-com bubble kind of, sort of impacted that company. We both kind of dispersed, went our separate ways. And then, timing was fortuitous. We had, we were aligned and had availability. So that's how he and I came together at Pendo. And then two other co-founders, Rahul was a VC at the prior company's backer, so Core Capital Partners in Washington, D.C. So I called him, was checking in. He was also sort of like looking for his next gig, so right around the same time. So again, just good timing. And then last but not least, certainly our CTO, Eric Trone, he was a friend of a mutual friend. And he's another guy where I was like, hey, you should meet this guy. He lives in Raleigh and it's really, he's a great entrepreneur, technologist. And, I was really busy for like years. And finally, I was at a time where I wasn't busy. So we had coffee, and here we are. So, I think that's kind of how it all came together.
And fast forward, so 11 years later then, I think takes us to 2024, right? So you said 2013 founded. What data can you share on the company, to give the audience a bit of a picture of where Pendo is at right now? So with things like revenue, headcount, funding, customers, etc.
Yeah, so it's public knowledge that we're over 100 million in ARR. I can say we're very comfortably over 100 million in ARR, so still growing a nice clip. We're about 800 employees. We have raised, I guess, around 350 in primary capital. Last round was in 2021 for context. So yeah, that's kind of rough sizing. 3,000 customers. Global company, we have offices in 8 locations, 4 of which are outside, maybe 5 of which are outside. Yeah, 5 of which are outside the United States. So yeah, that's kind of rough numbers.
Cool, and thanks and congrats on the great numbers there as well. And so I'm sure obviously we could talk about many things, but we want to go through really the lessons in building Pendo over 100 million ARR. So starting from even getting to that first million ARR. Right the way through to, I guess, kind of present day. So let's jump into that. Let's go down to that first million ARR. I guess out of interest, how long did it take and what was the hardest part of getting to it?
Okay, so if we started building Jan 1, 2014, and we started actually selling, like taking revenue in late 2014, and then we got to a million roughly a year after we started selling. So it took about a year, about 12 months exactly. What were the challenges of that point? I mean, I think you're just all fumbling through product market fit. And what that means is you're talking to customers, you're talking to users. Our strategy early on was actually pretty darn simple. It was like, find people interested, like to have this pain, that we can get them using our software, even in a beta capacity, and then just iterate, listen, iterate. It's a pretty classic like customer discovery process. And, through that, we continue to evolve the product. I'll never forget one of the interesting stories from the early days is we were in the, Battery, who did lead our Series A, started to be interested. And we weren't raising capital. We didn't actually need capital exactly at that moment. And they're like, hey, we want you to talk to this portfolio company of ours and see if they'll buy. And they're like a very, very tough company. Like they were hard to sell to. Like they didn't buy a lot of things. And we got on the phone with the head of product, and like he basically said something to the effect of, if you build surveys, we didn't have this concept of surveying people for qualitative data at the time. If you build that, we will buy. And immediately on the phone, it's like, done. We'll have it out in a month. Now, meanwhile, hadn't talked to the team, didn't really formally spec it.
Yeah.
Now, I was coding at the time, and so I was pretty close to the engineering and knew how long things roughly took us. But I never forget going back to the team, like, hey guys, we got to ship this in a month. And they're like, whoa. And like, we just powered through. I mean, it was one of those things where we powered through, and that's a good example. I think the other big thing for us is, as an analytics company, and we were one of the first companies, I think maybe actually probably the first, that had this concept of collect everything. So you install us in an application, we collect every user behavior. Well, we had no idea how much data that was, like literally no idea. And we had no idea how to predict how much data even would be, and how much volume and all that sort of stuff. So, so we would get on the phone and we would hear how many users a customer would have, and like our CTO would be like, "Ooh, I'm scared about this one." But I'm like, what do you say? I mean, you can't say no. You kind of like just have to do it and see what the hell happens. And that is how we operated for years, where we would install on some product, it would crush us. We would madly scramble for a few days and figure out the like scaling pinch points, fix them, and then everything you back to normal. But I can tell you, it created stressful years. I mean, like one of the more notable ones, which I think it's public that they're a customer, was Zendesk. I mean, I'll never forget when Zendesk first like lit up. They just turned on the product, and next thing you know, like every alarm in the system started like going crazy. And our teams basically worked around the clock for days, and to the point that no alarms went off. And fun fact, Zendesk is still a customer, and they still, one of our top. I mean, just think about that product. Yeah. Someone sits in front of a computer and uses it all day long, every day. Just generates crazy amounts of data. You can't even predict it, right? So like those are the kinds of interesting moments that sort of helped get to where we got to. And if we had tried to be perfect or tried to predict in advance or like not closed it until we had it ready, honestly, we probably wouldn't be talking. So
makes sense. And great story, and often quite a classic example there when you talked about being on the on that sales call with the portfolio company of Battery, who wanted this particular feature. That often you hear, the founder sort of leading sales early on, and I've been on those calls. I've been there, but also been on the receiving end of the calls where the founder was like, "Yeah, whatever you want, we can kind of build it," and then they go back to the team and have that conversation, right? But so it's pretty common. But I guess, I'm pretty sure, also make an assumption that you grow out as you mature as a business. You stop doing that and stop saying yes to customers. So like if we fast forward to today and you're on a call with a important customer and they say, we just need this particular feature, like are you likely to say yes, or are you likely to take this back and say this could be interesting for us, but it goes into a list and there's a bit more of a process there?
I would say we're more aggressive than the average company. But it does depend. Like, okay, first off, there's rules. Yeah. We are not a custom software shop. Yeah. I do not build things for one customer. However, if there's something on our roadmap anyway, and it's, I don't know, let's say it's 12 months from now, and this customer or prospect needs it now or sooner, I am willing to rearrange things. I as I tell my product teams, like, don't get married to your roadmap. Married means you have emotional attachment to it and that you can't move things around. Because what better proxy for prioritization than speaking with a customer and them saying, I will buy now if you have it now or not. Like that to me is one of the greatest signals of prioritization, that you can actually have in your business. So I am like actually pretty comfortable rearranging, and you'd be actually surprised to know, even at our size and scale, we rearrange things pretty aggressively, and I think we're maybe known for that. And it's maybe because I have a product background that I am very comfortable being aggressive. I mean, I think part of our success and part of how we got there is like a level of scrappiness and a level of chip on our shoulder that, like, I think the companies that don't do it, I hear this a lot from tech companies in particular, they have like a level of arrogance that's like, no, customers don't know better than we do. Like our roadmap's perfect, we're super smart, blah blah blah, and not to say our team isn't intelligent. I think we are, but we are willing to listen to customers probably more aggressively than other companies are, even at our size and scale. And honestly, I don't want to change that. I don't want to change it. Yeah, it's got to be a little different, but no, look, am I going to commit to an exact date on behalf of an engineering team without talking? No, I can't do that now. That's a little irresponsible. But we can attack it get estimates and then commit. Like we will commit to a customer 100%, even today. So, and I think it's fine. Yeah. Do people that get emotionally attached to these things and like have this perfect process? To hell with all that. That to me isn't winning. So I want to win, Alexander.
That's good.
So winning takes extreme things.
I like that. I like that mentality, and hopefully all founders, CEOs want to win as well. But obviously, some have different ambitions. But you mentioned again that sales call. So as a founder CEO, I'm assuming you led sales for a certain period of time. How long did you lead sales for? And then at what point did you stop leading sales? And then fast forward to today. Do you actually still spend any time on sales? Or are you spending a percentage of your time on sales?
Yeah, so I formally led sales and did sales myself until May of 2015. May 2015, I just luckily hired like a very good head of sales, great hire, local CEO who, I think just formed a nice partnership. And that was the exact date. But what was happening? What was happening was I just had way too much to keep up with. So at the end of the day, like the amount of inbound, the amount of deals I was working, it just was way too much for one human. And this is like, it goes back to one of my classic startup philosophies: is hire for pain. So we hired sales because it's pain. Now I'll tell you this is probably just good fact for most entrepreneurs, is like I had investors telling me to hire salespeople like 8 months prior. I just ignored them. That was the right call because it allowed to create this feedback loop that you just heard that wouldn't have existed if I had some like junior level sales rep like making cold calls for me. So I think waiting until I had, a couple customers, better product market fit, like things were smoother then than they would have been if I hired earlier. And that was great. And now look, I didn't like walk away. Like for years, one of the cool hacks we would do is I would sit on the sales floor and I would just listen. And if like a sales rep got stuck, they would Slack me and I would just join on to the Zoom call and I would immediately help them. Because a big part of it was teaching sales reps, people that have never done like product management, how to speak to and relate to a PM. So, and sometimes it took me getting on the call and just kind of like, helping, to be quite honest, and coaching. It's coaching. And I think that active coaching really helped in the early days. It's a hack for enablement. Like, look, now Pendo has like a team of, 8 people in enablement, and we have all this like stuff, and we have content. We had nothing then. So like, how are you going to teach people? Well, you got to teach them by showing them. You got to actually do it for them. Now, your question is, fast forward to today. So am I involved in sales calls? Yeah, 100%. And some of it is on the customer side, and because we do a lot of expansion revenue, but and honestly, we've struggled with this, finding a way to do it really, really well. But we instituted this great executive program for our entire C-suite, myself included, that we wanted to do 75 meetings over 2 quarters, and we crushed it. We did a little over 80 meetings. So that's meeting with customers, and that's everything from building relationships with executives to like helping understand where we can partner with them better, a mix of product. I've done demos on these things, and that takes work to stay sharp and prepped. And then another example was on last day of the quarter was last Wednesday, and we had a team in particular that's very close to their goal, and this was like probably a little after 5 p.m. Eastern time, and they needed like basically one deal to get to goal, and I helped. I made some we cold called someone that we thought was a good one. I, got to the right person. We negotiated on the phone what I thought was a fair transaction, and we closed it.
Amazing.
Right at about 11:30 p.m. Yeah. So I think if you're not willing to get your hands dirty and not willing to help your team, I think it's. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I don't do this a lot, but I always believe if I can help. And sometimes I am the right person to do that in the org, then I should do it. So
100%. Let's look at the 1 million to 10 million ARR sort of milestones then. Again, roughly how long did that take, and what were some of the key takeaways from that period of getting to 10 million?
I mean, probably a little under 2 years is probably like the right measure. Maybe like 2 years would be a conservative estimate. So what are the milestones? I mean, honestly, it's a blur. we were growing really fast then, more than tripling was, generally speaking, our position. We had a lot of inbound demand. Actually, one of the interesting time frames in the company was right around our Series B, C. So that would be the end of 2016-ish. And I think what we ultimately did was we did 2 rounds kind of back to back, and then that really supported us doing our first acquisition. We did our first acquisition in 2017, and that was to get mobile support. It was tough. We were a 90-person company. We acquired a 30-person company who was primarily in Israel. So that was the first time I'd ever been to the country. Now this team had mobile support, and we at the time didn't support mobile at all. And we knew, of course, that we had to eventually to achieve our goals. So that was all happening while we were tripling. So our revenue is tripling. We're acquiring a company. We're opening up our first international office. We're going back and forth a ton. That was a bold move, acquiring a 30-person company when you're 90 people, but ultimately the right one. I mean, it unquestionably the right decision at the time. We prior to that had a single engineer working on mobile, making no progress. It was almost embarrassing, to be quite honest. I have no idea what the hell we were thinking this one guy was going to build this entire solution. But we had him, so I think we obviously shifted directions when we found this opportunity. But that was probably one of the more memorable, bolder moments that we had probably in the company history.
So from what I know, there are obviously not one playbook, one size fits all, but there is a proven path. And I guess kind of typically when you're sort of going 50 million to 100 million, M&A can play a big part in that growth and expansion. But obviously, from what I'm hearing, you're involved in M&A, at and around the 10 million mark or lower. Were there any other sort of M&A activity? I don't know what ARR you were at when you acquired Receptive, but did you do a little bit before 50 million, and was that unconventional, or it was just, as you say, we had the holes in the product, or we needed to buy these things, or we saw exceptional companies that would add value?
Yeah, I think Receptive acquired in 2019, so we would have been under 100. We would have been probably under 50. Yeah, we would have been around 50, or either under or close. And look, we acquired Receptive because we were passionate about the problem and passionate about the product. We didn't actually need it for revenue or growth. I think we needed it for our long-term vision. When we look at these things, similar for mobile, we acquired the mobile company because we know we need mobile. And when I first saw a demo of the product, I'm like, wow, that is awesome. And I mean, similar for Receptive, I think that combined with the team on Receptive, we already talked a little bit about Hannah, and Dan, her co-founder, we're like, this is a good scrappy team. This fits our culture. We spent a lot of time with them. Look, I have believed since day one that the ultimate winner in our market, and then I sit here and argue that there isn't a declared winner in our market yet. It's still a pretty new-ish market, but I think the winner is going to be a broad solution. And I want to be the platform that product teams use to make their products better, period. And that platform is going to have a variety of capabilities. Mm-hmm. And more than just product analytics, more than just messaging, I think it's going to have more. And Receptive represented one of the things I think is a critical part of the day-to-day workflow of a product manager, which is get these feature requests. How do I manage them? How do I prioritize them and use as further evidence to inform my decision? So to me, it was just it's always going to be part of our platform. It's just, how are we going to do it? Are we going to build it? Are we going to buy it? In this instance, we felt buying was the right course of action. And the other thing is, we're still learning about these markets. It takes years to really, I think, nail it. And the sooner you get started on learning about the various intricacies of certain problem domains or certain capabilities, it increases the likelihood of success, essentially. So yeah, I think you also see we use this thing called strategic pillars, or actually anchors, excuse me. In a strategic anchors, we have 3 of them, and these 3 things are the lens through which we evaluate all strategic decisions. And one of them is called bold by choice. And So we look at decisions, and like honestly, if there's a bold answer and a less bold answer, we will almost always pick the bold answer. And let's be honest, like acquiring companies when you're small is sort of a boldish move. And look, while we've acquired 3 total companies, we've probably looked at a dozen, since I've been here. So yeah, I think we're aggressive. Like I want a plane to win. When you play to win, like you do behave aggressively. But I think it's just part of how we operate. So
I'm curious, the just on the other 2 strategic anchors, what are they? Because I like the bold by choice one, so I'm hoping I'll like the other 2.
Yeah. The other one is value in the platform. So it's a platform-based method. I've already talked about that, and I'll say how that informs things is when we prioritize features, we look at the intersections of platform areas. And I push the team to build things that are within those intersections because they're almost not, you can't copy those. Because unless you have the same breadth of platform that we do, which most people don't. So I think that's an area where we invest pretty heavily. So value in the platform is the second one. And the third one is what we call driving the product-led movement. It's like we believe that the future of most companies is some digital-led, product-led motion. Like it's the whole concept of like software driving the world, and we want to be the leaders that help companies adopt these principles. And it's not just our software application, it's our content and our messaging and our education services. So you'll see us, those are the 3 things. Everything we do falls within generally one of those 3 things, mostly 3 of those 3 things. And, it's like, I mean, you probably know, our user conference isn't called the Pendo user conference, it's called Pendemonium. Because it's a bolder idea, So, like, we had both options on boards. We just picked the one that was a little bolder. So that gives you sort of an example of kind of how we think about these things.
Awesome. And I've never been, but I love the name of the event.
You're always welcome. Thanks. You're welcome. I think you'd have fun.
Definitely. Because I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to skip 10 to 50 million. But I want to know what's the hardest thing about getting from 50 million to 100 million. I'm sure there are many, but maybe if you can name 1 or 2.
Yeah, that was a tough one, man. So that the slog. I mean, I think there's a lot of challenges. One of the more notable challenges is that company growth outpaces often human and like professional growth. So you have this concept where your company is growing and then eventually your execs, it's just really, really hard to keep up. So you need to change over your executive team. So I've done that now basically twice to get to where we've gotten to today. And that creates a lot of change when you change executives because it kind of cascades throughout the entire organization. That's probably one of the biggest things. Yeah. And we're a bit lucky, actually, that we've had a CFO since 2017 and the same one. So that's one of the only roles we have not had to really make any changes around. And that means like the back office, like honestly, the stuff I'm not good at and don't care as much about. Yeah. I care about it, of course. Yeah. I know that it needs to exist. It's just not my personal passion. That kind of just all handled for me in a consistent manner. So that is actually pretty useful. For us, we moved to the enterprise. And moving to the enterprise is a different motion. It's a slower motion. Feedback loops are slower. I think our product stack had to evolve. Our go-to-market motion had to evolve. And honestly, we have not been great at it. Like we've been historically great at more of an inbound mid-market motion. That's what we're known for. That's drove all of our early growth up to 50. So like trying to become an enterprise-focused business has been hard. We've gotten it wrong a few times. Knock on wood, I think we have it right now. But it took us, years to get there. And so that means you're like scrapping your way to 100. Like it was not like a simple get to 100. I mean, we were fighting to get to 100. Even beyond 100, I think we're still fighting in many ways. But again, I feel good where we are today. But that's a hard transition.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And we're going to go into the quickish fire rounds now, Todd. So I'd like to know what one thing has moved the needle the most for you in your career.
One thing that moved the needle the most, I mean, honestly, just hard work.
Yeah.
So like when in doubt, work harder. So like it is not more complicated than that. So like I wish I could say there's some like amazing secret to success, but no, I work really hard. That's it.
What about the best advice you've ever received?
I love this advice. One person told me, do the things that only you can do. Like, we all have choices, leaders do lots of things. I can do many things, but like there's some things that only I can do. Only I get invited to certain conferences. Yeah. Only I can talk to certain executives. So my priorities are based on that.
What about biggest failure you've made and lesson learned?
I go back to hiring. Yeah. Like in waiting on making a change. Like anytime someone like in your people team tells you, oh, it's too disruptive to make this change, they're probably being too conservative. They're wrong. Just ignore it. Make the change. So like you know best.
Hardest thing about being a CEO?
Is that you're always a CEO. Like it doesn't turn off. There's no turn off. So like doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. The role's an always on roll. So like yeah, it means on the weekends I like to like hide in my house and do nothing. So it's that's probably the hardest thing.
Very similar, very similar. What about? I mean, have you got a favorite book on business, and why, and what is it?
I mean, I loved Jim Collins' books, Good to Great. It's like a classic book. Yeah, that's probably my favorite. Stuff.
All right, well, Todd, we come to the end of the show. You've been a fantastic guest. I love the energy, the play to win mentality, and obviously some amazing success. If people wanted to reach out to you, where can they find you online? Where, what channels are you maybe more active on?
Yeah, I mean, certainly find me on LinkedIn. I'm Todd Olson on LinkedIn. Obviously our website, pendo.io. And then I'm on Twitter, T Olson. I mean, I don't post as much, but I do read it constantly, and I react to things. So, but any of those venues are great.
Awesome.
To reach.
Good stuff. Well, Todd Olson, CEO and founder of Pendo, thank you so much for being a great guest on the SaaS Revolution Show today. Really appreciate you sharing with the SaaStock community.
My pleasure. Great to be here.